What has been your best month ever that you've earned?
Yeah, no, this
And
it
how
might
has that
be
changed your life?
well, this month has probably been the best month that I've had so far. It's just down to the two 250K accounts that I was able to pass. The profit target for those accounts were $15,000 in itself, and that I think that's what 30K, 35K, I think in total. Um,
Cyprus,
Mm,
your best
Same question.
month? Same question.
Um, May for me was my best month on paper, but in terms of withdrawals, June was my best month for withdrawals. I had three withdrawals in the month of June, almost every week except for the last week of June. And my max withdrawal amount is $22,500 because
Wow,
it's $5,000 times five accounts every time I withdraw, but they take their pay, and that makes it about $4,500. So times three is about 66 grand. So I pulled about 66 grand for the month of June.
unbelievable.
Um,
So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody around the world. I guess we have a very international crowd today, which is fantastic. Um, so, as I've kind of explained the format, it's going to be kind of an interview with D'Angelo. I know we had a lot of questions about prop accounts. And the whole idea of this community chat is to ask, is Camille and I are going to do a whole education series, and then we're going to have different speakers on. And I thought an interesting topic would be prop accounts, because I know that some of us are trying to pass them, some of us are very successful at them. And I know there was a lot of questions so that we can kind of go through it. Um, Giangelo, are you there?
I am there.
Right.
I'm all good.
Perfect. If anyone wants to turn on your cameras so you can participate, just mute yourself if you could. Please raise a hand if you have a question as we're going. We want to see as many faces as possible. I think we should all get to know each other on these. So it'd be great. So why don't I just kick it off? And we're just going to ask about, where are you from, Giangelo? How did you find this community? And just tell us a bit about yourself and your background.
No, for sure, for sure. I'm originally from Port-au-Prince, Haiti, from the Caribbean. Moved to the States, currently reside in Massachusetts. Pretty much did all my academia there. Currently work full time for this British-owned oil and gas organization. Away from my day-to-day work life, I'm an extreme sports enthusiast for myself in terms of what I participate outside of that environment specifically. I joined the community like 2 years ago, I believe, and I think I came across this H-bar analysis video that CYPRX actually did, during the end of 2024 when I think we were going through that, bull run during that time, or the beginning of the bull run during that time. Not necessarily too sure, but he was going over his position for H-bar, how much he had, and how much he'd obviously allocate for DeFi during that time, and like one of the things I thought was like, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. I haven't seen any Louis Boy price predictions, as I was seeing a lot. That was
Yeah,
recurring. Yeah,
they're everywhere.
yeah, it was everywhere during that time, and I didn't see any of that, on the channel, which was was lovely to see, and it piqued my interest to joining the community, and yeah, here I am. I've been with the community for the past 2 years, and ups and downs in my trading journey in itself, but it's the best community that I've joined. I mean, obviously first year of trading, but I think I'm lucky in a way, as it's the first, trading community that I've ever actually joined so far in my life.
Yeah, it was the same thing for me, trying to looking out there, figuring out what I want to do, figuring out my financial
Mhm.
freedom. Are you staying at the oil and gas, or what's your whole goal?
I mean, I love what I do in my, work, the people that I help, the dreams that I'm able to, make happen, even though I'm like a minute factor, in the process for them, but still playing a role, of course. But for me, I mean, yeah, like becoming a full-time day trader, is the goal, for me specifically. But what I'm more focused is just building, the overall skill set to get to that specific point for myself. And it's obviously going to take a lot of time, effort, perseverance, discipline to get there. Um, but now I'm just in this, learning and earning phase for my career.
Yeah, it's amazing. So you're talking about extreme sports. What extreme sports do you like or do?
Surfing, base jumping, snowboarding, downhill, mountain bike riding, everything, anything fast, anything fast for myself specifically. But yeah, no, it's one of the. I don't know if you guys. I don't know if you guys watched the remake of this movie, but there was actually a movie, Point Break, Keanu Reeves, Patrick Swayze, that came out back in the
Yeah,
90s. There's
yeah.
a remake of that. Yeah. There was a remake of that in 2015 that came out, and that's kind of where my love for extreme sports came to be. But yeah,
Well, the
even though it's
original was
not,
better, right?
yeah, exactly. The original is a lot better than the remake, but that's kind of where my love came to be.
So tell us about your journey so far with CyPrX. Like
Mhm.
what did the community give you? What is Cypress and Scalper? What have they given you to kind of give you the tools?
David, just before, do you
Sure.
record?
It is on record.
It is on
It-
record. Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
no problem. Yeah, yeah. I'm going to make sure that I'll send it right across to Cypress after this. Did you get that question?
Would you say that part one more time again, David? I
Yeah, I was
think.
just going to just talk
Mhm.
about like before we get into the actual questions about prop accounts and stuff
Yeah,
like that. Let's talk about like because you found the community.
yeah.
What are your takeaways from the community? What are you getting like, the support or friendships or like what do uh
Yeah. Great.
you
No, that's a
getting
great
from
question. No, that's a great question. So, I mean, I personally think the community, offers a lot in terms of, obviously support, being able to build connections, with others, but allowing yourself to actually see, how trading is overall, crypto, DeFi. There's so much information, within the community that's available to everyone to, to be the best individuals that they could actually possibly be, whether it may be in their personal lives, trading, crypto, DeFi-based careers, whatever it is. There's so much thing like there's so much available here to give you the right foundation to be successful, later on. And I haven't seen that anywhere else, personally. I think it really falls upon the individual to execute, what's being taught by Scype and Scalp, when it comes to, all of these specific niches overall, Kev, Aqua 2 as well. And I think if you're not taking advantage, of everything that's being offered within this community, you're kind of in a way crippling, yourself,
yeah.
which is it's not good, whatsoever. But I think aside from the information that's available here, everyone is supportive with one another when it comes to their own journeys, trading, anything else, and being able to connect, with one another, develop those relationships, and be there when the dark times occur. And it's something that I'm never going to take for granted for myself. And again, lucky enough, I was able to find this community, given where I am, right now in my life.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
amazing. Sorry, go on.
to just
Nancy.
capitalize on that, because I don't think a lot of people joined in while we started, but if you want to just recap a little bit of your journey in terms of like your accomplishments, the capital that you're trading at the moment,
Hmm.
how long it took you, what happened last month as well, because you came back from a quite of a if you want to just before we start talking
Yeah.
about that, just present yourself and kind of the reason why you get interviewed today for the people who haven't followed the script.
Yeah,
Thanks.
no, that's that's no worries at all. I mean, last month, as you guys know, in the community, literally lost all of my trading accounts. It was one of the worst experiences that I went through, so far, in an extremely, extremely dark time. Right now, I'm like literally managing over $1 million in funded capital.
It's
Before that,
amazing.
yeah, no, thank you for
Well
that,
done.
David. Thank you, guys. Before that, before I actually lost all my accounts, I was, managing half a million in funded capital, and I didn't take the right course of action, whatsoever, and how I was, managing the capital during that time, going through a lot of psychological mistakes, technical error mistakes on my end, and it kind of became this downward spiral that was extremely bad for me specifically. And I really had to go through this change of evolving my own trading style and just just going back to the information that I learned and making sure that I'm following the process as smooth as I could possibly be for me specifically. And there's things too that I've learned across, the past few weeks, which opened my eyes that I was actually, not paying attention to, whatsoever. And going back on the Zoom calls in itself, that helped me evolve to where I am now. I mean, I'm not the finished article, of course, but it's in a way progression compared to where I was before. But yeah, that time was darkest darkest period that I had. And I've been trading. I mean, I started trading in January. This past.
Right.
January of this year. 6, 7 months deep.
Amazing.
Into trading. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not like, yeah, again, I'm not a finished article. There's so much more to come down the line for me specifically, but I think it just shows that the more you persevere, in this niche, the rewards will be there, for you long term, and so he mentioned it too for one of his mentors. The guy like was going 15 years not being a profitable trader, and then one
Mhm.
year, it changed. It all changed for him, and I think
You have the aha
going back,
moments.
that's exactly what's like sticks with me ever since he mentioned that in one of the previous Zoom calls. I'm like, hey man, I'm saying to myself, I can't give up. If I know someone that's, literally trading 15 years not profitable and one year he becomes profitable, and I'm in my first year, why would I be quitting this early on?
Yeah.
Why would I be quitting this early on? No reason for me to do that. But that one thing he mentioned, still sticks with me to this day, and it's what's keeping me alive in these markets.
So when you first started, like, did you get right onto prop accounts or did you start
Hmm.
trading your own money? How much money
Yeah,
do you put in there?
I started prop firm accounts first. I haven't used any live accounts at all for myself, but yeah, started on prop firm accounts. Went through the practice phase, got to this point where I'm like, okay, cool. Start going on these combines and trading on these live combine accounts. So it was successful. I passed challenges, passed my first challenge and the other challenges afterwards, but you get to a specific point where you hit a wall where, you know, you're going like you're successful, but it's not consistent. It's up and down. It's up and down, up and down, up and down. And for me, it was to that point and then started blowing challenges, blowing challenges consistently. And then, the month that I had last year was kind of like, the tipping point of the tipping point of everything. And I even mentioned it too, in the chat. I think it was in one of the chats that I blew over 100 accounts at this point, close or over
Yeah, yeah,
100
that was
accounts
to
at this
me
point in
because
time.
I was blowing my
Yeah,
accounts. I
yeah,
see that
and
Cypress
yeah.
actually has a hand up. We're just gonna Cypress?
No, I'm jotting down notes and formulating more questions as thoughts come. You kind of answered this one already. When you had talked about the loss that you experienced, I wrote down um because I mean for those of you all who have been in the community for I don't know a year plus know that I have taken some very fat L's in my career. For some odd reason, I'm like at this point where this $500,000 loss keeps showing up in my career multiple times now. It happened in 2023. I lost $500,000. It happened in 2025 again. Um, I wrote down the question, what did you tell yourself, D'Angelo? What was the one single thing that you told yourself after you took that big loss? Kind of like a tip that you could give to somebody who is in that same process. And I
Hmm.
could use so many people in this community as an example who are in this phase where they're passing challenges. They're getting into the express account phase or the funded account phase and then experiencing setback.
Yeah.
What was like the one thing in that moment? Because I know that there's so many that I've told myself. I go downstairs in my garage and I train hard as shit, right? I lift weights and I'm just like constantly telling myself certain things. But what's the one thing that you told yourself that allowed you to, you said the word perseverance, to persevere and
Yeah.
reapproach it with a different mindset and kind of give yourself a motivational foundation.
For me, bro, is keep rising. That's the one thing I kept saying to myself, keep rising. What these losses that, you're going through right now, it doesn't define where you're going to be, in a month's time, 2 months' time, a year's time, 2 years' time down the line. It doesn't matter what it is. These losses, they're just setbacks, given where you are in your journey right now. Still early, for me. And obviously there's going to be more losses to come down the line, I'm sure of. But it's really all about how you're reacting, when those losses actually occurred, and what you're doing in place to not make those same mistakes over and over and over again. And if I could give an example, this is kind of, in the time frame charts. You saw previous screenshots of me using the seconds, the 1 minute chart, and now I'm only using the 5, 10, and 15 minute charts for
Mhm.
executions of my trades, as well as the hourly and 4 hourly for directional bias. My thing now, you know.
It's so funny that you say that because somebody messaged me the other day and was like, "Bro, how the heck did D'Angelo become so successful? What did you say to him?" And I was like, "Honest to God, you know what I noticed? I noticed that he stopped executing on the time frames lower than the minute charts. I noticed that without you even telling me. It's hilarious." What? Okay, so that's a great answer. Last question that I just wrote down, and I'll keep writing down questions to contribute to today's call, but if there was one thing that you could say to whether it's a newbie, an intermediate, or an advanced trader as a tip to taking prop firm challenges, because there's so many
Mhm.
different ways that you can approach prop firms. So what's like the one thing that you've learned about taking prop firm challenges that you think everybody should incorporate in their approach to them?
Low risk, not trading these crazy ass large contracts. If you're managing a 50K account, you should not be taking 10, 15 contract trades, on those accounts whatsoever. You shouldn't even be risking more than 3 to 5%, on those accounts. Small contracts, one or two, for literally everything, honestly, because it just builds so much consistency over time. It doesn't matter if it's a 50K, 100K, 150K account, whatever it is. Small contracts build consistency, and it gives you more data to evolve from where you are as a trader, right now, and identify the mistakes that you're making so that you're not going to be able to make the same mistakes long term overall. And, like you always say, it's about like we're focused on the long term. We're not like focused on being, good traders for one day, good traders for 1 month. We're focused on being good traders for the years to come. That's the main goal of all of this.
I agree. I'll pass it back to David after this just to capitalize on what you just said. I think everybody that is in the prop firm taking phase of their trading career needs to understand that these prop firms are a math-based game to literally siphon money into the casino's hands. And so they give you access to a 150K account, but are you really getting access to $150,000? No, you're not. You're getting access to an account size with $150,000 worth of leverage. But in reality, your account size is based off of the drawdown limit. So if you're
Mm.
getting access to a 150K account, then in reality you only have access to $4,500 because that's the limit threshold that you have
Yep.
to before you breach the account. And so when you go into it with that mindset, like D'Angelo just said, you stop thinking in terms of how can I pass this aggressively fast? And then you go into how can I build skills and execute the strategy and the plan properly to execute and pass this challenge over a month or over 2 months or 3 months. Remember that there's no time horizon on passing these challenges like there was back in my day when I first started taking prop firms back in 2018-19 timeframe. You had a 30-day limit on every single prop firm across the board. I remember when they shifted that, it was like 2000 and maybe like 21, where all the prop firms took the time limit off. But for that first like 3 year phase of my trading career, it was stress of having to pass in 2 weeks or 30 days. Now you don't have that. So taking that step back, D'Angelo, like you said, and just realizing not to push
Mhm.
the leverage, even though it's in your face. You have the potential to take it, but having the discipline not to over leverage and build consistency is key. Yeah, I like that response, bro. David, back to you. Thank you for the floor, bro.
No problem. That's great. I do have a question, but let's Camille got one.
I had a quick question regarding a previous conversation we had on the Zoom, D'Angelo, where you said you
Mhm.
always been someone who is no ego behind that, but highly confident. And when you put yourself into something, you most of the time achieve it. And we can see that with your extreme sports and your BP career and everything is quite interesting. Do you think you had to add some discipline to this? Do you think that was this discipline came along? Did you learn more discipline when you started trading? And this self-esteem that you always had, did you had to build it as well with trading, or was it kind of like instinctive to you?
It was
It's a lot
very
of question.
instinctive. Yeah, no, it's no worries. No, it was very instinctive to me, building my own confidence, within trading. Because to me, the losses, even though I lost so many times, still losing, it's probably still going to obviously lose, of course, because obviously we know the game that we're in. It doesn't have that much, like, it doesn't like kill me. It's like not something that's going to kill me, because at the end of the day these are just numbers on the screen to us. It's not like we're getting shot.
Yeah.
It's just numbers on the screen to us. That's just really all it is to it. And I think in a way I built so much discipline through those losses, like, okay, you know what, shouldn't be doing this thing anymore. I need to, improve. I have to stop making these mistakes, because these mistakes are going to become obviously bad habits, over time in the long term. And for me, that's kind of where I built, the most discipline, for myself, and still building even more discipline, over time. It's just the losses that I'm seeing going through for myself, and the mistakes that I make, that I'm trying to eliminate continuously, going forward in my trading career. If that answers the question.
Yep. So what I'm going to do is kind of go through, we're going to talk about all the different getting funded,
Hmm.
maintaining funded, managing multiple accounts. And I'm just going to break that down into questions. I know that we're going to have some follow-up questions. And of course, Scalper gave me a question that we will ask everybody that we're
Yeah.
interviewing. And you can ask, I'll ask that question now. And maybe as we're going down, you can talk about it. It's always about the delta held patterns, the one,
Yep.
two, three, and the dark pools. And maybe as we ask the questions, maybe you can ask like how have those helped you be disciplined, you know, get on,
Yeah.
get funded. So I don't know if you
Yep.
want to take that now, or do you want me to kind of go down and
I
break
could
down the
take
questions?
I could take that. I could
Let's
take
just
that
do that.
question. I actually remembered, because I think one of it was kind of like how I actually get into a trade,
Yeah.
and it really incorporates, it all together. I mean, for me, when it comes to getting into a trade, I always start off on the 1 and 4 hour time frame, so that I could actually get the directional bias for the previous 2 to 3 trading sessions.
Yep.
I always look for the premium buy sell basis, pay attention to the dark pools, deltas, since those represent potential inventory zones where I can watch if price is going to expand, absorb, or even originate in structure shifts. So I could change my bias on the fly for that given trading session, or future ones that's going to happen, of course. But for me, it really helps with my if then scenarios that I play out to myself in terms of preparation for what price may potentially do for the given levels that I mapped out onto the chart, and where I should actually look to take a position from. When it comes to the delta held setups, I like to buy delta held setup for me personally, since I always see them on the higher time frames, the 5, 10, 15 minute time frames in itself when it comes to execution overall. But I look for them on the 1 and 4 hour time frame, so that it could serve as, in a way, another added confluence for the discounted areas that I could look for in the given trading session that I'm in. But yeah, I mean, I execute all my trades on the 5, 10, and 15-minute charts, and I look for the
Yep.
delta held setups on those time frames, and making sure that they actually correlate to the higher time frames. And in a way, like those time frames, they just filter so much noise that
Mm.
I see on the charts, and it just allows me to slow down in my analysis and just keep my emotions intact. And I think I mentioned this to someone the other day, but those time frames, in a way, just kind of represent meaningful changes that happen in market structure overall, as opposed to lower time frames. Lower time frames, as we know it, obviously gives us better entry points. They're great, but we're subjugated to manipulation, going against the markets, and creating all of these psychological errors that is not, going to be good for our accounts, long term. And in a way, I feel like what I've been learning and evolving into these past, few weeks, kind of becoming into like this higher time frame inventory zone volume trader, now only taking, and Site mentioned this too, only take positions near the premium buy, sell bases, dark pools, deltas, making sure that we're paying attention to how price is reacting, near these zones. And if these reaction tells us whether the inventory, still matters overall. But that's in a way how I've kind of go into the trades and what I tend to look for.
Yeah, I can just tell you, because I'm trying to pass these prop accounts. I found my biggest weakness is I overtrade. But
Mhm.
PT, you have a question?
I do. Um, Considering let's say the number of times that you have retaken tests for the prop accounts, is there something that you could share with us that you would say is a common error or a common mistake you have seen so that as we go forward, and I realize it's quite subjective and every single one of us has their own journey. But I'm just wondering if there's something that would help us be a bit more efficient based on the experience that you had.
No, that's a great question. I think the one thing Jordan said it before too in the chat, only focus on the setup that you're most comfortable with, as that's going to help you become profitable, long term when it comes to not only, taking these challenges, but also on the live accounts that you have. It's all about keeping things simple. And I mean, from the screenshots that I've shared in the chat, that's kind of how I just tend to have my whole entire setup. I don't try to put all these tools and stuff on my chart, whatsoever. It just distracts you. It causes you to make unnecessary, mistakes. And that's really all it comes down to is just keeping things simple so that you're able to understand, go at your own pace, when it comes to trading on these accounts, whether it may be, combine, prop accounts, or even the live, accounts. That's you just really have to keep things and simple and what feels comfortable for you long term. And for me, it's to like when it comes to the setups, it's the buy delta held setup. I'm most comfortable with. Like I know the other setups that I'm still learning, still trying to get used to, but from what I've been seeing so far in terms of the data that I've accumulated for myself, this is the setup that works for me on these time frames that I'm trading on.
That's your highest
If that
success
helps.
level.
That's the highest success. I mean, so far, right now, so far. I mean, I've been successful, with the seconds and minutes charts before in the past,
Yep.
but I got to this point where I'm like, yo, I'm blowing accounts. I'm losing too much. I'm going against the market
Yep.
trend, making these like crazy ass mistakes. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's just only trade on the 5, 10, 15-minute charts, 30-minute charts too, to a certain degree going forward, because this continuous losing and inconsistency is not good whatsoever. And in a way, I mean, these past, few weeks have been the like best like time, in a way, the biggest month that I've had as a trader so far.
We're
When it
going to
comes
get to
to,
that because I'm sure everyone wants to
yeah,
hear what that's going to be. So we'll save that
yeah.
one for the end. But we got some questions. So we're going to go to Cyprus. We'll go to MC, and then gosh, got lots of questions. So let's start off with Cyprus.
Awesome. I love to see the participation. First, I just wanted to cap on what D'Angelo just said because he mentioned Jordan, and Jordan had shared this podcast or some gentleman speaking. I'm not too entirely sure who it was, Jesse Livermore, Trading Insights. I just shared it in the Golden Dawn section. But the cap on what D'Angelo just said is knowing what type of trader you are and not chasing every single setup and really executing based off of the comfortable setup or the setup that you like to see in the market that makes you the most comfortable and not feeling like you have to participate and understanding that there's a strength in waiting for the market to come to you, setting up areas of interest and not touching the charts until alarms go off or until price comes into those premium or discounted areas and then reacting. And there's a certain level of strength in that. So if you guys want to listen to that, I just shared it in the Golden Dawn section. It was a great just quick 25-minute podcast that Jordan shared, one of our other profitable members, this rising. So revisit that. Then the question for D'Angelo, real fast, which I'm sure is probably on the back of everybody's mind. What does the learning process in this Discord actually take? Like, you're now a profitable member. You've gone through the CYPRX content, you've gone through the Delta education content, but like, what does it really take? How did you approach it? Did you go through all the PDFs? Did you spend, multiple hours in the Delta education section and opening up all the PDFs? Kind of just talk through that. Like somebody that, for example, maybe is on this call that just joined this community, what would you
Hmm.
say to them they need to actually do to get to where you're at? How many hours did they need to sit at the charts to study? How, what where would you direct them in this Discord to go through the process of learning what you learned? Like kind of
Yeah.
kind of give that approach to somebody that's listening that might be new in this community.
Bro, me, it's going to be different for everyone. I mean, obviously, depending on their availability and how much time they're able to allocate. But I literally spend 6 to 8 hours, a day going through the 2.0 material, going through the video, the past educational Zoom videos that's been conducted, like literally all the way back before in the past, ever since you started the community. And they're obviously within the 2.0 section too as well. Um, but 6 to 8 hours a day, on these charts, running these scenarios to myself, going through the 2.0, going through scalps material, even going through the general chats, the Delta education, PDFs. Like there's literally so much information for everyone to go through and pick apart, the information that you want to learn, that you want to like incorporate, within your trading overall. And yeah, I think the more time that you put into trading, the more success that you're going to see long term. Like it's obviously rough in the beginning for everyone. Like you're not going to be, this crazy ass, elite trader, within a week, 2 weeks. Like
Yeah,
it's
I
something
agree.
that takes long, it's a long-term process. And the more that you devote yourself, to the Discord, to the Zoom videos, to the 2.0 material, to, Scout and what he's teaching in order flow, you're going to see changes, in your trading. You're going to see improvements. Like, and that's really all that it comes down to, just your overall execution as an individual in this community, because it's a you versus you thing, I'm never going to be the trader that Sight is, Scalp is. I could only be the best trader that I could possibly be. And for me, the more, I commit myself to, trading overall, the better, it's going to be for me long term. And that's kind of how I approach it. Like I study it literally all the time, even going back on past, previous mistakes that I've made in my own trading. And
Mhm.
the journaling is the biggest, the biggest important aspect of it as well too. You have to journal, everything down when it comes to, the trades that you've taken, how you felt during the trades, how you've approached the trading days that you've taken, which you should actually avoid, going forward, what you should do better, and giving some grace, to yourself on, what you've actually accomplished, so far overall. Um, but there's so much information in this community that's going to expand, your learning curve when it comes to, trading overall. And it doesn't really matter, if you're someone that's 10, 15 years deep, into trading. It's like if you have this mentality of, oh yeah, I'm comfortable. I know everything now. It's not going to be fruitful for you because, as we know, these markets is constantly evolving and you have to evolve along with it. You can't just you can't just come to this market and say, yeah, everything is cool. I'm good. It has a funny way of humbling you in in every way possible.
I think hearing you mention the amount of hours of study time that you put in is so essential because at the beginning stage, I mean, even now to this day, I still sit in front of my computer and I read 10 fundamental reports, sometimes 15 fundamental reports in one day just to conjure the market sentiment for you guys in the morning and you all see how accurate it is, right? And every single day I'm reading and learning new things. It's a constant flow of information that you have to stay adaptive to. But to kind of structure that down, if you're new in this community or this is your first month or even your first year and you're not at a point in your career where you're at D'Angelo's level or my level or so on and so forth. It's not about being at a level. It's about just constantly striving for greatness and more. So going through the educational content, whether it's the CYPRX 2.0 content, or you're in the monthly Discord as a member and you're scrolling up to the top of the educational PDF section, both sections, because there's an educational PDF section where myself and Scalber have committed to just giving you guys some good PDF documents, and then the Delta education section, opening up all those, making sure that you're reading thoroughly through them at least one time, taking yourself notes, getting a fresh journal, and creating your own kind of like approach to how you digest the information. I like how you said going back and watching all the Zoom call recordings. That alone within itself is like a course. Both of those Zoom call recording playlists together have over 300 video breakdowns in them. So going back, scrolling up to the very top of those and watching them from start to finish, phenomenal. And then last but not least, self-journaling, demoing practice accounts, combine challenges, making sure that you're writing down your emotions, you're writing down what went wrong, what went well, what you can improve on, what you did good. I like that response, D'Angelo, just to give everybody a really good insight into, if you're not doing those things, start to consider it, right? Start to consider contributing more time. And if you have a busy schedule, you have that 9 to 5, you have a family that you are taking care of, and it requires a lot of your attention and time, start to figure out other things in your life and areas that you can sacrifice to make contributions towards digesting more of this information to get through it faster, right? Whether it's you create a scheduled plan where, 30 minutes prior to starting your day, you watch a Zoom call recording on 1.5 speed just to get it in, right? And then maybe watching one right before bed. If that's all the time that you have, making sure that you squeeze in that study time. But good response, D'Angelo.
Thanks, man.
Okay, I've got some more questions from the community. So we'll start off with MC.
I forgot even my question. Yeah, sure. No, I wanted to know, what was the main thing that you journaled that made you change recently? And going back to your answer earlier to capitalize on PT question, you said last month you had like few aha moments. So you already mentioned changing time frame, right? To be less caught up into manipulation. But in terms of psychology or things that, like PT said, people can go back home with, what was kind of like this aha moment that you had
Only taking
rapidly?
the best, no, no worries, only taking the best quality trades that I could possibly take, for myself, and not, over trading eight,
Yeah.
10 trades, 15 trades in a single day, because you get lost in it. You
You
get
lose so
lost in
much
these
money so
trades.
quickly.
Yeah, you lose money, but you also don't gather the right data for yourself. And one thing I kept telling to and I actually I journal this down literally every day to myself: lead with data over emotions, because the over trading is kind of like just a result, too emotional, you know, too emotional for that given day. You're doing things and chasing things that just isn't there, and you're not letting things come to you in the best possible way that they could actually be. And for me, that's the thing that I've, listed down, journaled down, for myself for every day, is just lead with data over emotions. Even if I lose trades, I'm like, nah, okay, you know what? This is just data, for me, of what not to do going forward. This is what I should actually avoid, in future trading sessions. And, one example, of this is not paying attention to the premium buy or sell bases, because if you don't pay
Yeah, you
attention to
mentioned.
them, you could be literally going against the trend for that day. If you take a specific trade and like, damn, okay, you know what? For an example, Asia didn't break New York highs, and we're obviously on this downward momentum. I took a trade as a buy, and I lost that trade, break even, or obviously it ate my stop loss. That's a trade that literally I went against the direction of the market for that given point in time. Not, I mean, it's all about it's all about giving yourself the highest probability of success when it comes to these trades. And those trades are fine. We've had success with those going against the trend trades, but it's really just making sure that you're actually reading the market properly, and not making mistakes, or not making trades that can lead to long-term mistakes overall.
So discipline in your strategy and emotion.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Cool.
Okay, Ted, you have a question, sir?
Yeah, say I was curious about like, the sessions that you do trade. Is it primarily New
Hmm.
York? I've heard, people like they won't trade Asia, but I've never really
Yeah.
quite heard why. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on
D'Angelo
that one.
trades D'Angelo trades all the sessions. Let's be real. Come on.
I mean, Asia's like, yeah, like, as we know, Asia's like the slowest, session in terms of, volume overall compared to London and New York. And that's kind of like the main reason why, lots of folks avoid trading that session. Especially Asia is kind of, you don't know where the daily low or the daily high is going to be set because that's the first trading session, of the market. But I personally, trade because it's just another added challenge, for me, given where I am. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to avoid something just because, other people say, yeah, this is something I don't want to do. No, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Even if I lose, it's still, data that I'm getting on hand. But before, I mean, when you're going through the combine phases, you have to, have a strategy in place of, okay, I'm only going to trade this one session because this is the amount of time that I can actually allocate to myself. And this gives me, more room to breathe. I don't have to worry about these other trading sessions. I could just come into this session, fresh mindset, trade, and everything is going to be good afterwards. But for me, I mean, just given, where I am right now, like I personally, would trade all the sessions personally for myself, but it's not something I'd recommend. I mean, obviously, when you're going through the combine phase, it's just all about, like I mentioned before, just keeping things, simple, given where you are right now within the career.
Thank you.
Got that, Tech? Dana, did you have a question? Hope it's Dana.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, you bet. Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Hey, D'Angelo. First of all, congratulations on all your success, man.
Thanks, bro.
You're crushing it. One thing I struggle with is over trading myself, actually, and
Hmm.
I really want to focus on taking the higher time frames and the A plus setups. And like as someone like yourself who's consistently profitable now, like how did you make that a transition? Like what what helped you stop feeling like you needed to be in the market all the time?
It's a good
Well,
question because that's
what
like
helped? Yeah.
anxiety, eh?
Wow, that's a great question. I mean, there's always going to be opportunities, no matter what session that you're trading in. And that's the one thing I always say to myself, like, okay, if I don't see any setup, within this session, there's always going to be another opportunity in the future sessions for that given day or the next day ahead. But that's the one thing in a way that's going to keep you from continuously having to overtrade, and chase trades and doing all this crazy stuff. That's just going to set you up for failure. When you're going through these combine phases yourself. But does that answer the question?
Dana?
Uh,
I don't know if you're still
yeah,
there,
sorry, I
but
was on a mute there. Yeah, yeah, it does for sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm just trying to find this mindset shift myself, I guess. I'm just trying to
like
rush
you only
things,
need
maybe.
yeah, you like the way I see it, you only need one good trade 1 week. That's all. That's all there is to it. You just only need one good trade 1 week, and you could walk out of that week saying, okay, I was successful with that trade. You don't have to like, make all of these trades for that for a given day, for a given week. Even someone in the community, I don't know who it was, but she shared a screenshot of the days that she only trades, and she was green all those days. I don't know who it was, but that's the most perfect example of just trade the days that you want to trade, and that's really all there is to it. You don't have to like continuously be in these markets every day, like that.
So
I
did
think
changing to the so to go into the higher time frame that definitely
Mhm.
helps with over trading.
Yes, because it slows things down a lot more for you because each candlestick, like it takes 5 minutes for the candlestick to actually form, 15 minutes for a candlestick to actually form. And when you go down to the minutes and seconds chart, there's more candlesticks, in those charts compared to the higher time frames. And in a way, you have to align your trades to the higher time frames because they're obviously going to give you the best probability of success for the trades that you're taking, whether it may be sells, buys, and you can actually see where the market is going given those trades. It not only helps within your analysis, but it also just helps you psychologically. You're slowing things down, you're being more analytical, you're taking better decisions, and you're actually, it's actually becoming a lot more seamless for you in that way, because that's the name of the game. You have to take, you're taking the trades that you're comfortable with, but you're giving yourself the best success rates for the trades that you obviously want to go into.
Perfect. So what I'm
Yeah,
going to do is try to keep on
great.
going. Digi has a question that we're going to get to. I know that there's two other hands up, but I do actually have kind of we're going to talk about getting funded, maintaining, managing your funding account, managing multiple accounts, which I want to know about simultaneously, and then the strategies you've kind of implemented. We're going to break that down. But let's, Digi, do you have a question?
Yeah, what's up, everybody?
Where are you
I
from,
just
Digi?
I'm from Jamaica.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So I'm in Miami though. I live in Miami now.
Okay.
So I have a question. But I just got I'm going through the course, right, and watching all the videos, and I didn't get on to Top Step yet, so I'm about to get a Top Step account. And I think D'Angelo pretty much just answered my question a while ago. I wanted to know if you go down to the lower time frame, like the seconds, the 15 seconds, if that increases risk. So pretty much it sounds like that does.
Yes, I mean, because in a way you're subjected to being manipulated by these small bricks of structures that you're seeing, but it doesn't really showcase itself on the higher time frames, in itself. And in a way, you have to align your trades with a higher time frame always, because you're trading in tandem with what the market's actually telling you. You could literally be on the seconds chart going against the trend when you take a trade in itself. I'm not saying you're not going to have any success, with that. I've had success. I continuously have success. Everyone has success, and you're using the smaller time frames. But it's all about what you're comfortable, with. And for me, it got to a point where I'm like, hey, even though I'm fine, trading these, the seconds in the 1 minute chart, it's not going to be helpful for me long term, because I'm going through these mistakes over and over and over again. So let me cut it out. Let me go on the higher time frames, and here we are. Like it's very smooth for me in terms of my own eyes and being able to visualize things, and making sure my analysis is correct for the trading sessions that I'm trading in.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, for the people that are just starting and then you start watching the Zoom calls and then you see Cypress down and like in the seconds, we just don't have to be that. Like, we just don't need to be there. And like, you've got how many years, Cypress?
I'm going on my 10th year, but I'm a
Yeah,
crackhead. Don't
10th
do what I
year. So you
do.
can get your seconds in the 10th year. Don't start it on the first year. Okay, we got a quick question from PT and then a quick question from Cypress, and then we're gonna keep on going.
I actually, I didn't want to, I don't have a question. I'll give it back to PT before we move on real quick, because Dana asked a really important question about over trading real fast. So before we continue to move on, Dana, just real quick, I think that the biggest thing about over trading that everybody needs to realize is where their over trading comes from, because there's different niches of over trading. For example, do you over trade because you're losing and you're trying to make money back? Do you overtrade because you're impatient and you're trying to, impulsively trade a market direction based off of guessing? Do you overtrade because you have a fear of missing out? So just before we pass it back to PT, I think to really answer your question, Dana, you got to get to the root of where your overtrading comes from, and then you can really deliver a solid foundation as to how to fix that overtrading, because everybody overtrades differently. For some people, it might be FOMO that causes their overtrading. For some people, it might be losses that cause them to want to revenge trade that lead to then more overtrading. So that's just what I wanted to cap on before we moved on. Sorry, PT, go ahead.
Thanks. So, in listening to what everyone is saying here, especially about managing risk and not over trading and some of these other habits, which I also find myself in, one of the things that I'm seeing is that during the process, at one point, something enters my head that says, okay, I'm developing my skills. This is all great, but how, if I'm only waiting for a good setup or for what I'm comfortable with, and I'm within the risk tolerance that I'm supposed to be in, how am I ever going to really make money? Because what happens in those instances is is that I find that what I'm able to make, at least for where I'm at right now, is quite small and definitely isn't anything I could ever live off of. So it almost seems like a trick in the mind, which interferes and says, well, you have to do all these other things, otherwise it will never work for you. So I'm wondering if D'Angelo or somebody else has dealt with this, and how does it actually work then? Because if I'm waiting for a setup that I'm comfortable with and I'm managing my risk and so forth and so on, then how can I set a financial goal for myself as well, staying within the tolerance of everything that we're saying?
So D'Angelo, I got a quick question for you because I think this will help PT. So when you first started, because actually this comes down to it, like my actual next question is when you
Yeah.
first started your experience of your very first account and talking about PT, like did you, because obviously you're talking about not taking huge trades, but did you,
Yeah.
as you got better, did you start to scale that up? Like, so maybe you're only getting, like how many trades a week would you, at the beginning, were you actually taking?
Oh God. I was taking like over 100 trades, a week. Yeah, over 100 trades a week. It was bad. It was not good.
You and me
Not good
both. Yeah.
whatsoever. Yeah, not good. Not good at all. But in terms of like the contracts that I was using, it was like I was going like 10, 11 contracts, these accounts, not good, whatsoever. And it got to a point where I'm like, okay, you know what? Only just run, trades on 2 to 3, even 4 to a certain degree at times, depending on how much capital you built in that
Yeah.
account when it comes to the trades that you're taking specifically. You can make so much money, off of one contract, 2 contract, 3 contracts, whatever it is. It's just all about the analysis that you have that you're making for that the trades that you're going into, where you're actually taking the trades, in itself when it comes to the discounted areas that the goal is for you to take trades, at specifically. But that's just kind of all there is, to it. Like it's more about the skill that you're building off of using the small contracts because everybody can make money, using the large contracts. It's how much you could actually, make it consistent using the smaller contracts long term.
So to help PT answer the question, like were you kind of setting yourself a budget like for the week you're trying to hit, or is it something you were just kind of like how did you kind of deal with that process, and how did you start to scale
Yeah.
up to where you are now?
So I set these stop loss take profit zones that you can actually take on Top Step, like 200. If you want, like if you want to risk $200, you want to make $500, you can actually set those limits on Top Step. You can't. I don't think you can do it in any other
You can do it on
platform.
the
I mean, you
crypto one that
can.
I'm on, but yeah.
Yeah, you could. But that's kind of the way I approached it. Only risk 100, $200. If I hit those limits, then I'm just not going to trade, for the rest of the week, depending on how much I hit that limit, for that specific week overall for myself. But it's really what you're comfortable, losing. Are you comfortable losing $50, $100, $200, $500? Then cool, take the risk. That's really all it is. Just you're taking the risk, in trading. And if you don't have a good comfort level, then there's really no need for you to be using those large contracts, whatsoever. And the small contracts, in a way, just helps you give a lot more room for error. Because say you come into a trading session, right? And the first trade that you take is literally a 5-15 contract trade, whatever it is, and you lose that. Now that really messes up, your psyche. Now you're
And
chasing,
it's
to
revenge.
gain it back. Yeah, now you're revenge trading, over trading. You're doing all this thing just to make what you lost back. But if you decided to trade with 1, 2 contracts, you may lose, $50, $100, $200. It's not going to be the end, for you
Yeah.
whatsoever. You may have a few more bullets, left in the chamber. And, that's really all there is to it is, giving yourself room for error and not banking everything on one specific trade, like that.
So when obviously you can buy the different
Mhm.
like in the crypto, I think I could start off with a 5 grand. I could end up with 250,000. Where did you start? Like, what was the one that you started? Like, is a $10,000 account or a $25,000 account? Where did you start off with?
So I just started off with the 50K. 50K
Yep.
account,
You went right
only
to
on
50K.
top.
Yep.
So yeah, right into the 50K. Once I passed that first challenge, I said to myself, okay, you know what, let's go up to 100K, then 150K, pass
Yep.
those both accounts. And, it kind of set me off when it came to the amount of contracts that I was trading with 10, 15 contracts, no success with it whatsoever. Can you still hear me? I'm not too sure if you can. David.
Yeah.
Can you still
So
hear me? I'm not too
yeah, I
sure.
can hear you
Okay.
perfectly.
Yeah,
I
we
can hear you
can hear
Okay.
perfectly.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay. Perfect.
So I guess so you started off with a 50K, right? And then you're kind of moving up to the other accounts. So how, what were the struggles of managing that many accounts and, the ups and downs? Like, what would you like, okay, if you first account, if all of a sudden you lost the first two contracts out of that, would you turn to the next account? Like, were you trying to balance it or?
So do you mean like what was my reaction after, like, say I lost my first account?
Well, so no,
Is,
I
is that
mean,
what
so
you mean?
obviously you're managing account, then you said you moved, and then
Hmm.
you finally, and all of a sudden you got another account because you scaled that
Yeah.
one. Then you got another account and you kind of scaled
Yep.
up. I'm assuming you're trading all three of them. Is that right?
Yes. At that point in time, I was trading all three of my accounts, and I didn't set the right risk parameters
Yeah.
around all three of them compared to what I'm doing, right now. I literally was applying, like, these bad these bad errors, to using all three of the accounts that I had at that point in time. 5 contracts, 15 contracts, because these were express accounts. I got them all to the express account stage. Had success, but then, lost them, just because, like the things that I was doing in the beginning weren't going to be sustainable long term, for me. And having the accounts that I have now, my own strategy is only trading 2 contracts, 3 contracts for the size for the accounts that I have. It doesn't matter if it's a 250K account, 150K, 100K, 50K account. That's the contract size that I'm going to be trading with, going forward, in each and every one of these accounts. Specifically for myself, just to give myself a lot of, room for error.
Hmm.
And obviously not, put myself in detrimental situations where I have to make so much back in order to get to myself, to a break even point, on those accounts. But that's the strategy that I'm running when it comes to the accounts that I'm managing, and I'm not copy trading, any of these accounts whatsoever. I know a lot of people want to copy trade, but for me, that's how I lost a majority of my accounts, just copy
Okay.
trading them, not setting the right contract limits in place and then copy trading on top of it. And it's a surefire way for you to lose, the accounts, in the most fast paced possible manner, overall. And really, you just only need to focus on like, you really have to think, and Scout mentioned it too before in the chats. You have to think of yourself like a risk manager,
Mhm.
behave like a risk manager. You can't be making these, errors for these accounts that you have, because it's so much capital that you're going to be wasting, long term, and making the same exact mistakes over and over and over again. Um, but yeah, that's kind of how I manage, my accounts now compared to how I was doing it before in the past.
Well, this actually kind of leads into my question. I can ask both you and Cypress. So you've got, how many accounts are you managing right now, Angela?
Right now, 9 accounts, seven, yeah, 9 accounts, 7 on Apex. That's the platform that I have over $1 million in capital. I have 2 more
Amazing.
accounts on Lucid and Top Stuff as well. Yeah, those are the only other 2 platforms that I have accounts at. I used to have an account on Blue Sky, but that was a 200K account that I blew, and I'm going to work my way back to earning that again in the future.
Cypress, how many accounts are you managing at once?
7. I have 5 accounts maxed out on Top Step, and I
Yep.
have 2 accounts on Lucid.
So
It's a total of about $1.2 million of capital.
That's
that
unbelievable.
I manage
PT,
across.
I guess you and I have a lot of work to do. So
No
to both
kidding.
to both of you gentlemen, how are, like, because I heard that you were taking a pay down the other day, Cypress. I think you took $5,000 out of each account, which is amazing. Like, are you literally just putting all, like, you just come in for that one setup? Because I know you're dealing with the 15-second entry points. Are you setting up all your accounts at once? And how are you managing that?
Yeah, I actually I don't stay on seconds charts, guys and gals, for like the way that I monitor price action as many times as I like screenshot my trades and my entries and send them to you guys. I only execute my trade on the seconds chart, but I'm actually just like D'Angelo. My preferred method of monitoring price action is on the 15-minute. So when price will come down into my 15-minute AOIs, I'll drop down to the seconds chart just to make sure I get confirmation of microstructure, delta held, so on and so forth. I'll execute, and then I'll immediately go up to higher time frames. When it comes to managing my accounts, I feel like right now my Lucid accounts are seen as just kind of like backup accounts. I'm growing them steadily. I'll trade them maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks. I'm not too aggressive with those. My goal right now, I'm not like D'Angelo. I'm a little bit more comfortable with trading all of my accounts at once. I feel like my risk management is pretty sound, primarily because I built a really big cushion in my express funded accounts. So for me to copy trade all of them, if I have a losing day, which you guys saw my parameters in June, so far I haven't taken any L's in July. But you guys saw me
Amazing.
screen share my wins in June. I only lost one day out of the 30 days of June's trading days. So I'm a little bit more comfortable. So for me, I copy trade all of them. I think that what D'Angelo's doing is smart, especially if you haven't built a good cushion across all your accounts. I recommend that you do that. What was the question exactly so I can make sure that I'm answering it on par,
I
David?
think it's managing the multiple accounts and talking about cushion for people that are just starting, like PT and myself or whatever. Like, what does that look like, and how did you build that
Um,
up? And
I think a good cushion, in my personal opinion, would be double whatever the profit target is. So if you're trading a 50K account to pass the combine or to pass the combine challenge, it's what, three, you have to make 3 grand, something like that. So I think a good cushion would be double that. Why? Because when you go to take your payouts, when you're on your
mm,
Express account, you're going to actually withdraw from the profit that you're making. So, like, say, for example, you're on the Express account and you put the 50K account 3K in profit, the max withdrawal that you can take, I'm pretty sure, on a 50K account is $1,500. So if you make 3 grand, right, and you take a payout, you can only take $1,500 out. That's half of the profit that you've made. When you go back into that trading session the next day, your risk for how much money
mhm.
you can lose is now only $1,500 because you've passed the profit parameter of 3 grand. So now you only have $1,500 of drawdown instead of 3 grand of drawdown. And remember what I said a second ago, that you're not actually getting access to $50,000. You're only getting access to $3,000 with $50,000 worth of leverage. So for me personally, the way that I saw it before I started taking payouts and how I manage my accounts is I always double whatever the profit target is. So if you're on a 150K account, before you start taking payouts and copy trading all the accounts, each account you should seek to have 9,000 times 2, 18 grand in the accounts, right? That way, when you start taking profit
So you got a nice buffer.
and yeah, you have a nice buffer. Exactly. Because somebody said it the other day. I don't remember. Oh, it was Jordan. It was friggin' Jordan who said this the other day. He said that he tilted. And one of the reasons why he was able to tilt and come back was because he had built a nice buffer. On his
Mm,
50K accounts, I think he put them like 10K in profit. So he put them up to $60,000 and he lost, he said, the profit target, which was 3 grand. So he lost 3 grand in a day. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but then that would only put his account down to $57,000. So he still had a $7,000 buffer that he
mm.
could play around with to make that money back and to come back into the market successfully. So the first goal in everybody's mind when taking these challenges is payout, payout, payout. Wrong approach. I think that the first goal after you get through the express account phase, you're going to go to this next level of trying to build a buffer, and that should be your focus. And then once you've built the buffer, which in my opinion is double the profit target. So if you're on a 150K, 9 grand times 2, 18K, 100K account, what is the profit target? I think 6K. So your buffer should be 12K and so on and so forth, right? Once you've superseded that buffer, take a payout, pay yourself, and you'll have so much more wiggle room to play with for days that you tilt or days that you accidentally mess up or revenge trade or whatever the case may be. Because let's be honest. If anybody's putting an account on a 150K account, double the profit, 18 grand after you've taken a payout of $4,500, which is how much you can withdraw max for an express account on 150K, you shouldn't be blowing through $16,000. What is it, $12,000 in one day? That's kind of insane. So
Right.
that's why I think building a buffer is of key importance. So hopefully that answers the question.
D'Angelo, same question to you.
No, Seth actually, answered it perfectly. It's really all about building like that room for yourself, that cushion for yourself, because you have to live the future. You have to live for the trading sessions that are going to come. If you take, these large payouts, then you have to lower the risk parameters that you have, for the accounts that you have, accounts that you own, and trade them accordingly in that respect. But he answered it perfectly, for that matter.
Okay, so my next question, just because I'm sure the community wants to know and what people like PT and I can like try to achieve,
Mhm.
what has been your best month ever that you've earned?
Yeah, no, this it
And
might
how
be
is and
it
how
might
has that
be
changed your life?
well, this month has probably been the best month that I've had so far. It's just down to the two 250K accounts that I was able to pass. The profit target for those accounts were $15,000 in itself, and I think that's what 30K, 35K, I think in total. Um, for those, and that's it's the best month that I mean, I've passed other challenges for this month in total, so it's over 30K that I made for myself just
It's
alone
amazing.
passing those challenges. But yeah, it shows what the potential is, long term. Once you're keeping at it, once you're persevering, once you're keeping to the process and following and putting in the work, going through the mistakes, fixing, your errors, going through the evolution. It just shows, what's out there for you to actually achieve. And again, still the first year. It's not the end. There's still more to come, down the line. I always say that.
Very,
But
very
it's
impressive.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just a continuous learning process that you have to stick to, because in trading you're never going to reach this perfect, precise point, in your career where you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm here. I don't need to learn anymore. I'm all cool. It doesn't work that way whatsoever. There's always going to
Mhm.
be, changing and evolving market conditions that's going to test you as a trader psychologically, as well as your skill set, of course, too.
Cyprus,
Mm,
your best
Same question.
month? Same question.
Um, May for me was my Beth. May for me was my best month on paper, but in terms of withdrawals, June was my best month for withdrawals. I had three withdrawals in the month of June, almost every week except for the last week of June. And my max withdrawal amount is $22,500 because
Wow,
it's $5,000 times five accounts every time I withdraw, but they take their pay, and that makes it about $4,500. So times three is about 66 grand. So I pulled about 66 grand for the month of June.
unbelievable.
Um, to be completely honest, I think that moving forward, that's probably going to be an average for me because of how much I've put my accounts in profit.
Mm.
And right now, I'm in the process of draining my accounts to retake challenges and go through and choose the standard instead of the consistency rule, which I had explained to you guys I'm in the process of doing. So yeah, June was my best month in terms of actually pulling money from Top Step, and I've only been operating on top. You guys remember, I only switched to trading futures in September of last year. September of last year was
Mm.
when I buckled down and I said, you know what, I'm done trading XRP and GBP JPY, which were my two trading pairs of choice prior to switching over to NASDAQ. And then last year in September, I was like, you know what, I'm only going to choose NASDAQ and I'm going to stick to NASDAQ for a year. So it'll be a year for me come September of this year. And I've already pulled almost 175K off of Top Step. So
That's actually a great question for you, Cyprus, because you said that you went from like my wife Mandy, she's doing JPY AUD, and
Mhm.
then I'm doing crypto. So talk about you going over to futures, and if you had to
The
start
the
again, would
dark
you have
side.
just started with futures? Like, what would you do?
Yes and no. No, because I think that forex and trading crypto obviously, of course, taught me a lot, and that's where I built a lot of my foundations. But it really just depends on the type of person you are and what type of trader you want to become. I think that people that are a little bit more aggressive with their approach and that like the volatility and can handle the massive amounts of price swings that you're going to experience trading a pair like Nasdaq, then obviously, of course, I would start with futures. But if you like a little bit more of a laid back approach, you're the type of person that's more of a swing trader, likes to hold trades for multiple sessions, and you can deal with the lack of volatility, then obviously, of course, crypto, because it lacks liquidity, or certain FX pairs like GBP USD or Euro USD are going to, favor your style of trading. So to answer your question direct, David, it would be what type of trader are you? And then you can base that off of your approach to what you're going to choose as an asset that you're going to trade. For me, y'all know me. I like those high frequency scalps. I like to get in and out just like scalper where I see a
Yeah,
move. It doesn't matter if the market's bullish or bearish on the higher time frame. I'm very good
yeah,
at dictating whether we're in a pullback phase, whether we're in a continuation, so on and so forth. And just Nasdaq for me, the reason why I gravitated towards it primarily because I came from GBP JPY, which is one of the most volatile FX pairs. It's like crypto and FX on crack. That's how I would explain Nasdaq. So if you like that approach, you're an aggressive style trader and you like the volatility that a session like New York session brings, I'd stick to Nasdaq. But if you're more of a laid back trader, you want a soft approach if you're a beginner and you're not like the volatility. I'll give a perfect example. Who saw the candlestick on Friday when Trump tweeted that shit out about Iran and Nasdaq dumped 500 points and then reversed 1,000 points in the same day? That for you might be like, yo, I can't, not not right now.
yeah.
So a pair like Euro USD that moves a lot slower might be more favorable for you. So I think that that's really what it comes down to properly answer your question is determining what type of trader are you? Are you aggressive? Are you
Yeah.
laid back? So on and so forth.
That's one of the things that MC and I are going to be doing the education series. I'll be dropping some more information about that. But one of the topics we are going to be talking about, because I think it's very important, is what kind of trader are you? Because just because you are incredibly at that 15 second, D'Angelo is doing whatever, it doesn't mean that we all need to be the same and what your comfort level.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And the only thing that will get people to success in their trading career is determining that. I think D'Angelo said this before, or Jordan has said it before, is that you can learn from mentors, me and Scalper, of course, being the mentors predominant in this community, but you have to take what we teach and like bring it into your own
Mm,
light and turn it into your
yeah.
own style. And some things you might like that we teach, like there might be people that like some of the things that Scalper says or like some of the things that I say, but then other things that you don't. And you have to be able to determine what things you gravitate towards and what you want to use in your strategy and then things that you don't. So I agree.
What makes success. So I'm going to open it up to the floor in a second because I'm sure there's a lot of questions out there. But are there anything, D'Angelo, that you want to add that pearls of wisdom, aha
Yeah.
moments before we kind of open it up?
Yeah, no, Sipe, mention it, but you really have to find your own style, when it comes to trading, overall. Like what's most comfortable to you, what's going to give you the most peace when it comes to the process that you're going through. And for me, like that the time frame change, it really, really opened my eyes. Like I don't know what it was, but the things that I was seeing, the things that I was going, the thing like what I was learning in the 2.0 material and going through the material that Scalp has on the YouTube channel and going through the Delta Education setups charts, the setup PDF, it really opened my eyes because everything was just it correlated with one another. And for me, it was just time, like that time frame
Yeah.
shift for me specifically, because the things that I was having success with on the lower time frames, I'm like, okay, if I go into higher time frames, let me see if this is going to make any difference. And yeah, it's made a significant difference to how I trade, how I actually, interpret, these markets and what I should actually be reacting to, at these specific levels that I'm trading at. And that's all there is to it. Like if you're someone that's comfortable sitting and chilling on the second chart, watching everything, play out in front of you, then, cool. But if you want peace, you want something that's a little bit slow and, helps you be a bit more decisive in your analysis, then, the minutes on a 5 minute and above chart is for you. But it's something that you have to back test long term in order for you to get to that comfort level, overall, and not follow something that's just not aligning with you whatsoever.
Yeah, for personal experience, though I found out, just like you, the more I've zoomed out, like I started off at the beginning,
Yep.
I'd do a week chart, a day chart, and then I kind of work all my way in and kind of figure out where the parameters are trading in between that for that week or that time. Because I found as I got too close, I was pulling at the opposite direction than it was actually going. Like it was the other way. We got a question for Cedric. Do you have any follow-up questions, MC? You're all good? Okay, Cedric?
I think that was very complete so far. We had very good information out of D'Angelo. So I could always go deep on psychology, but that's on next Sunday with Jordan.
I want to jump back on what Camille said during the previous call regarding nailing down the mechanics of the setup before rushing into prop firms. So my question for everyone who wants to answer is, how do you guys know when you're ready to get the prop firm account, take on a challenge? Or maybe do you think it's kind of a leap of faith situation? Because you can never really know when you're 100% ready for it.
I'll answer that from like a structural perspective. When you should take a challenge, because of course the number one goal for every trader is to preserve capital, right? Doesn't matter if it's trading capital or your actual income capital. So you never want to just pay for challenges and then just be paying for challenges and blowing money, real money, right? Because you're paying for challenges, you're going to be blowing accounts. So having at least a 30-day to 60-day period on a demo account or a practice where you're applying the strategy properly. Now, if you're not going to go that route, it is going to come down to a feeling, right? A feeling that you're going to get of confidence. And when you have that feeling, it'll be different for everybody. But when you get that, don't hesitate. Don't like second guess yourself, because sometimes it'll take you actually going through the process of taking a combine account to see if you're ready for one. You know what I mean? Like you'll actually have to try one out to see if you're ready. Because to be completely honest with you, there's different emotions that you're going to experience on every step of your journey. Practice account is going to deliver different emotions towards taking a challenge. Taking a challenge is going to give you different emotions. When you pass a challenge and you get to the express account phase, you're going to experience different emotions. And to be successful, you're going to need to journal each of those emotions. And that's really the only thing that's going to determine your readiness. So if that answers your question, Cedric. That's my opinion. If anybody else wants to give their
I agree, because like for me, I need a bit of skin in the game. And I need to manage that whatever. So I'm just taking $10,000 accounts, but it's only $100 for me to get in. If I lose $100, I lose $100, but at least it gives me some skin in the game. That's what I find.
You're not gonna, let me put it this way, you're not gonna learn yourself properly taking practice accounts, because it's for some odd reason there's like a level of detachment when you're on practice accounts versus when you know real money's on the line, whether it's the money that you paid for the challenge or whether it's you're in an express account phase and there's the possibility that you blow the account. It's like a different level of emotional attachment to the process. So yeah.
Did we answer your question?
Yes. Thank you very much, you guys.
No problem. Kevin.
Perfect. So my question is for Cypress, D'Angelo, and MC. When did you guys get comfortable with losing?
I still hate it.
Do you ever get comfortable with losing? I think you just
Oh
create
no,
less
chase it.
chance to lose. But I don't know if you ever get comfortable with
I'll
losing.
I'll say this from a mature perspective, bro, is
More.
that I've come to the realization over the past 10 years that I've been a market participant and
Your
having
question,
literally
buffer.
I've lost over $1 million in the span of a 3-year period. And for some of you guys who have been in this community, I mean, literally, Kev, you were on the call with me, bro, when that dude was draining $500,000 from my wallet. Um, I came back the next day. I literally showed up the next day and hosted a Zoom call like nothing happened. Like I didn't lose $500,000. Deep down inside, I wanted to fucking cry and quit. And I wanted to tell you guys, look, I'm shutting CYPRX down for a month. I got to take a break, but I didn't. So you come to a point where you realize that losses don't make you who you are. And I think that that's the most important part is that one loss, one bad day, one bad week, one bad month do not make you the trader that you can become. And when you realize that, that for me is when losses stopped affecting me because I realized who cares if you lose? If you have the determination, the willpower, the discipline to apply the strategy properly, you could lose $1 million, you could lose $2 million. Months ahead coming back, you can make it back. You could double it, you could triple it. And when you have that perspective and you've mastered a strategy, I think that that's what eases the fear of losing because I know even though I lost that money, I'm me and I can make it back. Not it's not cockiness, it's like a level of confidence. It's like I lost that money, but let's be serious. I have all you guys on this call right now, and we got D'Angelo managing capital. We got Camille managing capital. We've made successful traders, so we know the strategy works. So a loss is just that. It's a loss, and you have to learn from it. And when you can learn from your losses, then they stop affecting you negatively.
That's exactly what I was going to say. For me, each loss is every time a lesson or a data about myself. And I practice, I think you guys know, practice a lot of self-awareness. And if I lose capital, I'm winning on self-awareness in terms of analyzing my emotion, analyzing all this. And that helps me to just tell you, really, Kevin, what helps me with lost is really meditation and the detachment of my identity and what the money is supposed to bring me, you know. If I lose, I lose. That doesn't make me a bad person. That makes me, I took a shit trade today. That's it. So it's really detach yourself from your P&L.
A
I
question for
think
both Cypress and MC on the losses. When you've taken the losses, do you realize immediately after, like you shouldn't have taken that trade, or did you still think it was a good trade?
Well, Daniel didn't get to go, but
You know, for me personally, when I take an L in my career where I'm at now, it's hardly ever because I misgauge or direct the market. It's usually some type of user error where um it's like some stupid beginner mistake that I make, like forgetting to delete a limit order or something just stupid. It's hardly ever now due to technical analysis. You know, whether I'm gauging the market bullish or bearish. So for me, um, I beat myself up when I lose now because I hardly ever lose due to incorrect analysis. It's usually due to me doing something stupid like the loss that I took in June. It's literally because I forgot to delete a limit order. And I come back to my charts and I'm like, why the frick is my top step down $1,500 right now? And then I messaged, you know, freaking Top Step support, and they're like, "Yeah, you had a limit order." I'm like, "No, the fuck, I didn't. Oh, I must have forgot." You know, just like stupid little tiny mistakes. So, critiquing that, you know, it's just a part of the process. The goal at the end of the day is to mitigate mistakes that you make, and eventually you'll get to the point where you mitigate so many mistakes that losses kind of feel like you're like, "Dude, come on, really?" You know, you'll stop
Mistake for
feeling
me
like you're
happen
attacking yourself. Go ahead.
when I sorry, Cypress, when I can enter too quick, right? Sometimes I get stopped out and I just need to re-enter 5 minutes later. So it goes back to self-confidence in your move, your analysis, the trend of the day. I forgot your initial question, but that was about loss and how I react to it, right?
Yeah, I mean, like when you've actually got yourself into a loss because you're seasoned traders, like do you immediately know that, okay, well, I shouldn't have done that, or
Of course, but that doesn't mean my emotion are 100% disciplined. Last month I tilted, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to add more capital on my challenges, and the challenge I tried to pass, I blew it, right? So,
I think too, something else mastering and D'Angelo and Jordan being profitable traders themselves can also probably attest to this is you start to gather the ability to cut losses short very quickly. So like if
Mm,
you're in a buy
mhm,
position, you get this feeling like, okay, usually when I execute a buy, for me personally, how I execute my buys, it's usually instant profit because I'm so patient to wait for the
mm,
confluences to play out, where it usually results in the bullish momentum is what executes my buy stop. And if I don't see that right away, I'm able to say, okay, buyers aren't here. Prices in my stop loss fluctuating, and I see sellers gaining control, and I can usually cut that loss short. So that's something else that
mhm.
everybody needs to be aware of that they need to master is having the
mm.
ability to cut losses short. And that really takes, stepping over your ego and not being like, oh, I'm right, because sometimes you're
It's a little
not,
bit more. Move the stop loss.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Exact.
then you,
That's what tricks everyone. So,
yeah. I think that the discipline and understanding and being able to get out when you know you're wrong and being able just to call it.
to
There's
accept being wrong is difficult.
Yeah.
yeah,
Kevin, did
there's
you?
one thing. Oh,
Sorry,
go ahead,
go on,
sorry.
Angel.
No,
Go on.
no, I was gonna. It was basically off of Kev's question.
Yeah.
I actually forgot what the question was. My bad, bro. But I think it was around how we handle losses. I think for me, it's more of the case of leading with gratitude. You know, learning a skill that is so significant, and we're able to make a lot of money. You know, $50, $100, $200. That's a lot. You know, that's a lot. You know, compared to what others may be making within their daily jobs, whatever it is. And for me, that's kind of one of the things that I think about the most when it comes to the losses that I incur and the bad days. Like just lead with gratitude. You know, you're able to participate, learn a skill, where you're able to make money out of thin air. Money's not necessarily the end all be all. It's not important. I mean, it's not real, but at the same time, you're able to learn the skill that's going to be with you for the rest of your life, specifically. And for me, that's just it's just the case. We're just leading with gratitude in itself.
Okay, we got one last question. We got Rob, and I think that we can probably wrap it up. I think it's quite a long Zoom at this point. Rob or
Hey,
anyone else? Yeah, Rob.
yeah, quick question for Cyprus, bro. I haven't chatted with you in a minute, but I'm curious on the Nasdaq, right? Because you came from crypto and doing some forex, right? So when you came to the Nasdaq initially, right, in September, and experienced especially like I guess that New York session, which is like a whole different level of volume, during that session, how long did it really take for you to adapt to that volatility?
It's hard to, it's unfair to ask me that question because I came from GBP JPY. So like GBP JPY, I'd honestly say in the Forex world is similar to NASDAQ. So to be completely fair, Rob, I was used to it. So I adapted quickly. I switched over to NASDAQ in September. I passed my first challenge in October. So for me, it was relatively simple. But to be fair, it is definitely different. The volatility is a lot heavier. I'd say what took the most getting used to for me was that Forex tends to trend in one direction for a lot longer than Nasdaq. And Nasdaq is like a crack baby where it will go 500 points in one direction bullish and then drop bearish the same amount of points reverse. So for me, my adjustment came from not marrying a bias and being able to reverse off of inverse confluences that were showing themselves for me. And that took a couple of months, honest to God, maybe like 4 or 5 months, where I really got used to being like, okay, on a pair like GBP JPY, I could buy and hold these buys all week because they're currency pairs and they go off of monetary policy a lot firmer than NASDAQ does, versus a pair like NASDAQ, where you really have to be on your P's and Q's and understand it's not a pair that is going to give you one directional trend every session. It's a pair where you have to be able and willing to take a buy scalp, close that buy scalp when buyers are taking profit, we know that the market's probably going to pull back and test the strength of buyers all the way back down at a higher time frame base. And Nasdaq has that ability to do something like that, where you won't think like I'll just give a perfect example. And Friday was like the best example. How many people, and I don't know if you guys have social media, but I saw so many social media posts on Friday last week of people saying, "Oh, what the heck? This is manipulation and da 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 da." But in reality, when we had our Zoom call last Friday, I showed you guys that it wasn't sellers in control on Friday. That dump was not sellers in control. That was just buyers taking profit on that news event that Trump put out. And then buyers defended their positions from where they bought last Thursday and then pumped the market back up. So, just getting used to that, Rob, I think it just takes time for everybody. It'll be different for me. It was just a couple of months, bro, to answer the
Interesting.
question.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize that forex pair had that much volatility. So I guess yeah, it's helpful if you're used to that type of volume. But yeah, dude, that's what I've been struggling with, and exactly what you're saying. I call the Nasdaq the Nas crack because it literally just goes in both directions, bro. And it's just like, I can gauge the consistency aspects in that environment is what I find to be the most difficult thing that I'm getting more used to, right? Because you do have to be able to switch your bias in a dime, right? As soon as you don't see, buyers holding or sellers holding, you really do have to adapt quickly. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Last tip of advice I'll give is do what D'Angelo is doing, is migrate to the higher time frames till you get comfortable with the volatility. If you are trying to operate for the first couple of months of your Nasdaqian career on the seconds and minutes charts, you're going to get destroyed, to be completely honest with you. And I think that what will ease a lot of the uncertainty in your trading directional bias for the day is if you stick to the 5 minute for execution, 15-minute for directional bias and buy and sell basis, and then hourly time frame for directional, thesis for the day. And that'll really limit the indecisiveness that you can experience trying to.
I think you froze there, Cypress. You freeze? One of the things that Camille and I are going to do is actually talk about that time frame. We're going to do a kind of a beginner, try to break it down into the less micro time frame. Woody, did you have a question? Hello?
Yeah, can you hear
Woody
me?
boy.
Yeah,
yeah.
perfect.
I have a question for D'Angelo on if you're copy trading on TradingView.
Yeah, bro.
Say you're in a sell position, say you're doing 3 contracts,
Mhm.
and if you want to take partials, do you just do one by one sell limit orders?
No, so if you're on TradingView, there the dome, like when you open up the dome, it will give you like the buy or sell, the buy on the left, the buy on the left, the sell on the right, and it gives you the number of contracts that you could, take off the trade at that trade. So if you're in a 5 contract trade, you go to that specific section. The order should be the section on the left, and the dome uh, should be on the right once you open up the trade thing on TradingView. But it'll give you the option of the number of contracts you want to take off your trade, specifically, whether it may be in a buy or sell. Like, does that help? Like, if you're in a sell, you just click like, if you're in a sell, put whatever number it is that you want to take off for the number of contracts that you have, and then you hit buy, and then vice versa for sell. Does that help?
I think so. So you're in a sell, then you hit like you have a 3 contracts, so you would do 2 buys.
Yes. So if you're in a cell and you're on the dome section will show you either buy or sell. It will give you a box that gives you the number of contracts, or it'll give you a box for the number that you want to put in for the contracts that you want to take off your trade specifically. So if you're in a 3 contract trade, you just put like 2 contracts within that box, and then you hit buy, and it'll take off the number of contracts, for that given trade.
Okay. Thank you.
All good.
Well, thank you very much, D'Angelo, for joining us and answering all the questions, and Cypress for giving all the insights. Obviously, MC. Any last question or pearls of wisdom for this week?
I'll say one thing. I know that being in, I mean, I don't know this, but I can assume because I've been a part of trading communities in the past. In my early days of trading back in 2016, 17, I joined communities early on, at least communities that I thought were ones worth joining. And I came in as a beginner and I was always trying to compare my success to others. And that can be said in this community because you have individuals like Scalper who come in and make $100,000 every time he takes a trade. I myself come in and take, $1,000 scalp positions. D'Angelo's always sharing profit. Just never compare your journey or your success towards anybody else in this market. There is a piece of pie for everybody that wants a piece of the pie, right? And for some of us, it might be a few $100s. For some of us, it might be a couple of dollars. For some of us, hopefully for all of us, one day it'll be multiple thousands of dollars, and in some cases, millions. But just never limit yourself, never limit your potential, never compare yourself to anybody in this community. We're all on our own journey, our own path. For some of us, it might take months. D'Angelo used a perfect example. My mentor, before he became profitable, mind you, he's in his late 60s now. But in his early 20s is when he started trading, and it took him until he was 33 years old, 13 years of loss, trial and
Hmm.
tribulation, of just getting slaughtered by the markets before finally he had a breakthrough. And his 13th year made more money than he ever had his entire 33 years of life. And so,
He made up
um,
back up all the
yeah, and
losses.
so, never give up, never compare yourself, and always understand that if you want a piece of these markets, it's there for you. You just have to apply yourself properly. You have to learn yourself. You have to obviously, of course, make a formal attempt to master the strategy in your own way, and show up even on the days that you don't want to. If you're not going to trade, you're not going to practice, you're not going to express account trade, try to get in some knowledge, open up a PDF, watch a Zoom call, attend a Zoom call, communicate with somebody in the community. I can't thank David and Camille and other people like D'Angelo and Jordan and Jamie who are active in this community who want to just naturally help because they see that this is a community filled with people that want to learn. And so, yeah, just keep showing up and never quit, never give up. Always keep your composure.
Yeah, never give up. Even no matter how much you get your ass kicked, just just try again,
That
learn
this
from it, right?
it's the pain is gonna get you where you need to be. Don't worry. Get your ass kicked. It's good.
That's what I'm telling myself every day.
It's a good thing.
So anything else?
I
Anyone
just
else?
wanted to say it was good to see different faces. I know people went on and
Yeah.
off camera. This call originally was created by David because he wanted to know the community a bit more. And so we're trying to push the show faces, but if people don't want it's understandable, but I think it's great to create a bond.
Yeah.
Hey,
It's
yeah,
perfect.
guys, hello.
No, it's good. I think
Now,
it's
Kevin, you can remove your camera, bro. I'm joking.
I mean it's amazing, such an international community that are all coming together, all learning together, all different walks of life. And then just kind of getting together on this. So as of the 2 weeks, we'll be dropping this. Camille and I are going to work on a whole education series, and we're going to be doing it. A lot of the questions are asked today about 15-minute time frames, about looking at the view, dealing with it, and I'm sure I'll be reaching out to the psychology gentlemen to have them on for that part of it. But I think it's about the community. As long as we can all show up, contribute, ask questions, and this is also a safe space. Like there's no stupid questions here. Like I literally have just started, and this is why I started this whole Zoom calls, is so that I can ask questions and learn. So yeah,
Yeah, and I
That's the
think what we'll
best.
do too is I'm going to create a new playlist, David, for Zoom calls, specifically the community-led Zoom calls, to take them out of the monthly and the educational and the Zoom call recordings, and we'll just create a completely separate new playlist. So it's just specifically for what you just mentioned. So that way it's just a designated place for that to go and upload.
yeah, that's gonna be great because the way our next format's gonna be is I'm gonna list out the topics. You'll probably get it later on today or tomorrow, and then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna timestamp them so that when new community members come on and they want to go through the training, for instance, they can, or they want to go back to a call that MC and I have at a particular topic, they can just go and find it really easily.
Beautiful.
phenomenal.
That's gonna fast track a lot of people. A lot of people.